Also got these push rods. This will be my first time ever installing push rods. These push rods are actuating these valves. Exhaust, intake, and there's a cam. The cam is there, and as the cam is spinning, it's pushing this push rod, hence the word push rod. It's pushing that push rod up, which will be actuating these valves. We're back here working on the Camaro. Since last, I've lashed all the valves, so all the push rods, and I've rotated it to make sure there's zero lash on all of the valves. We got thermostat gasket, just gotta bolt that in. But before I can even bolt in the intake, I have to get an intake gasket to go in between on both sides. After we get the intake gasket, we gotta put this thing at top dead center so we can put the distributor back on there. We got spark plugs. We got all the spark plugs in. We're using these NGKRs. We'll hook the spark plugs and the distributor and the spark plug leads up, and then we'll continue on from there. We got us an intake gasket and the valve cover gasket. This should be completing most of the top end. Still got to put the carburetor on and a couple other things, but we're gonna put those on now. I put some extra RTV sealer under these gaskets for the intake manifold, just for some extra protection. Don't want no leaking going on. Perfect.
Right here, I'm gonna put her on. She's a beauty, absolute beauty.
We got the new thermostat on there. It's not bolted on there. We got a new radiator in there. Put that in there a while ago. We got the carburetor bolted down. Some of the vacuum wires hooked up to the manifold. We got the distributor. We got one wire from the distributor going to the battery positive, giving the ignition power. Then we got a power line going straight to the starter, another line going to the starter solenoid down there, and we're gonna give it a crank in a second. Let's see. Give it some, we don't have no fuel pump, so we're gonna use good old carb cleaner. Just keep your video continuous. It worked.
It worked.
Flip it upside down so that it feeds fuel to the carburetor. I have the battery on a charger so that it's still getting supply for the spark, and we're going to cut it on. Before then, let me give it a little spritz. We had a massive oil leak under here. Damn near like it happens every single time And it's literally, let's see if we can find it. It's literally because there's no oil filter on here. But I cleaned up the oil. Just waiting for, I put some cat litter on it. While I was down here, made a good find. I found out that this thing has air suspension. What? Both sides. I got an oil filter and oil from Miss Marianne since she leaked all the other old oil. We also got this new fuel pump. Got this little tiny one in there. And we got the big boy. Nice Edelbrock. We got the Edelbrock fuel pump just temporarily installed. We're gonna leave it in this location until further notice, until we have the ignition switch, the actual car ignition switch hooked up. Besides that, can't see it too well, but we got the oil filter down in there. Put some new oil in there. This is the coolest part. Let's do this. I got the throttle pedal inside the car hooked up, so let's peep. That's functioning now. Now, hopefully, these are the wrong hoses from China, goofy. Hopefully sometime in the morning I'll be able to get the upper and the lower radiator hose. Back here working on the Camaro. We got the nice fancy air filter cap hat on there. We got the alternator belt, driving the water pulley also. We got the alternator bracket in there. We got the ground cable now hooked up to the bracket, the new battery. And we got these heater hose for the coolant blocked off. We starting this thing up and driving it. I bolted this power steering pump in, but this is the wrong screw, so we just are holding it out of the way. So we gotta steer this big boat with no power steering.